Note on a Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams. Exceptional play, a winner of the Pulitzer Prize, and very well known, mainly for the adaptation which has Marlon Brando in the lead role. The main characters are Blanche Dubois and Stella and Stanley Kowalski. Blanche arrives to the home, which she doesn't like, really, of her sister Stella and her husband Stanley. After the property has been lost, as she says, they had Belle Reve, a place where they lived in style and they were well educated. In fact, there is a major difference, a cause for tension throughout the play between the much more sophisticated Blanche, an English teacher, and her sister Stella, and the rude, violent, and rather primitive Stanley. I must say from the start that I didn't really care much for Stanley. I mean, I can understand that it's an issue, a problem when you have a relative, it happened to me, come to stay, and then you have to pay for various things, in this case including the liquor. Stella had been imbibing and drinking quite a lot throughout the summer while she stayed there, and especially when the conditions are dire to begin with. They have 2 rooms, there's no door between them, they have to use a curtain, there's no intimacy, and no comfort to speak of. So when you have someone coming to add to a situation which is already rather bad, you can't be all politeness and good manners. But Stanley is a man who uses wasn't we? So he doesn't have, one would say, a basic education, and he is violent with his wife and rude most of the time. Especially when he finds out about the reputation of his sister-in-law, which is destroyed actually at the point where he finds about it. From the beginning, he's unhappy to hear that first of all she's coming, and in fact she's here, she's staying with them, and there is no more property to speak of. He says, according to Napoleonic laws, what you have, I also have. So I'm entitled to that. I don't like to be cheated. What did she do with that? And I see she has pearls here. She has gold. Look, she has spent a fortune on these things she carries with her. Throughout, Stella is trying to keep the balance. She's frustrated and angry with her husband when he's turning into a brute. And on the other hand, her sister is quite often obnoxious, and she seems to feel that she's like a princess coming from the palace in fairy tales, and it's beneath her. She's here and she's so precious that Stanley, who is after all her host and as I said, pays for liquor and all, is not really a man worth approaching and talking to. There is a sexual tension also. And speaking of this arrogant position, it has reminded me of the shortest joke I know. One from Fawlty Towers, where at the reception of the hotel, a man says, "Pretentious? Moi?" So she is pretentious and affected. But then we hear the story. Stella tells her husband at one point, "You don't know what she's been through. You don't know why she's so sensitive, that she's been such a nice girl. And when she was very young, she fell in love with this really, really handsome young man. They got married, but it turns out he was a degenerate." That's the word, exactly the word I remember. It shocked me a bit. The word she used, Stella, in front of her spouse. We don't obviously use that anymore. And I think he was homosexual. That's the idea. But they were very much against it in those days. How long is it? Maybe 70 years? It doesn't matter. And the young man took a gun and shot himself in the mouth with his brains, the back of his head splattered on the wall. That was terrible. And the way we see it now, I felt sorry for Blanche. And as I said, she was throughout a much more likable character for me than, let's say, her enemy, Stanley. She never recovered from this. She tried to find solace in the arms of many men, and hence her reputation was destroyed. Since she got involved with a 17-year-old boy, the school dismissed her. She was left without a job, and she was thrown out even from the hotel Flamingo, was it? A hotel with a bad reputation to begin. Wonderful, wonderful.